you are returning or if you are brand new. This is the Quarter Life Crisis podcast, and my name is Chloe, and this is episode 7, I'm pretty sure. I think it is. I'm committing to it. This is episode 7. And I thought today I'd just speak about long-distance relationships. Now, obviously, not every single person will know about them or will even care. But I do think they're increasing in numbers with how many people are entering into these relationships. I mean, it can kind of be from anything, work, if you're travelling for work, if you're travelling for school or anything, if you're just going on a trip and you meet someone. But I do think a big contributing factor is social media or just the internet in general, the World Wide Web. Or I think there's a lot of couples now that are kind of finding themselves in a relationship where they're navigating long distance, and there's a lot of TikToks, a lot of videos, a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of people online, whatever, that are like, long distance relationships so much fun because you get to go to another country and you travel and It's so hard. I honestly, I want to be so real right now. It's so fucking hard to be in a long distance relationship, and my partner will say the same. We've agreed, we've literally had this conversation now that we live together, and he said the same about how hard it was to be in that kind of relationship. Now, I thought before I jump into the nitty gritty and the trials and tribulations and everything of a long distance relationship, I thought I'd just say my story quickly. Well, I say quickly, it's not going to be quick, it's me, but I thought I'd just go over my story. So we met online, which is how most of these things do end up starting. And it was he's really nice, but I never thought, I'd be in a long distance relationship. I didn't think that I'd have any interest in being in one, honestly, which sounds bad, but I knew that it'd be a lot of effort, and honestly, I didn't want to put in effort for that. So initially, we did really get on well, and we shared a lot of interests and hobbies and things, and we just kind of became very good friends. But then there was kind of, and I can't really pinpoint when, but there was kind of a turning point where I was like, actually, I quite like this man. I quite like this guy. Like, he seems very nice. And we did try and meet up, but then COVID happened. And we've all been through COVID. We all went through it. We know how shit it was. And so I haven't even given context. I am from the UK and he's from Belgium. Now, obviously, in most long distance relationships, it's a big distance. I've noticed it's like Mexico to the UK or Germany to Switzerland and things, and it's a bigger journey than what me and my partner had to make. But I don't think it's any different, really. I don't think our story is much different. I will say that meeting was probably a lot easier than it is for some people, so we did kind of have distance on our side. It wasn't like a across the world kind of deal. It was literally just over the English Channel. You know what I mean? So it wasn't really that intense, but we definitely still felt all of the feelings the same. Anyway, beside the point. So we tried to meet in the first 2 years, but then COVID happened. So obviously that delayed everything, and the way that it would go is that the UK would open for travelling, but then Belgium would close all of their borders, so no one could leave, no one could enter. And then it was basically a flip-flop between the two countries. One would open, one would close. One would open, one would close. And eventually, in November of 2021, we actually met for the first time in person. So we'd obviously spoke a lot online, over the phone, whatever, but we'd never actually met in person. And 2021, in November, is when we finally met. And it was incredibly awkward. And again, everything I'm saying, he will agree with. So I'm not saying anything that's like a big shock to anyone. But it was very, very awkward because no one really speaks about, especially if it's been a while that you've been speaking online, the jump from speaking online to someone where you don't really have to have any filters because you don't have to deal with a physical person. So you can kind of just speak however you really want to. But then the jump from that to then meeting this person in person is so strange and so surreal because I was there. I remember it literally like it's happening right now. I've gone through security and everything. I walk out and I can't see him and it's so busy. Now, obviously, I'd seen him on my phone. I hadn't seen him in real life. So I'm looking for him and I'm like, is that him? No, that's not him. Is that him? No, that's not him. And he's texting me like, where are you? Like, I'm looking for you. And I'm like, I don't know where I am. Like, I'm in Brussels airport. I've never been here before. I don't know where the hell I'm going. But we eventually, like, he found me and he gave me a big hug. And I was like, oh my God, I was shaking. I was like crying, throwing up. I wasn't really, but I was so anxious, so nervous. And I cannot believe I actually did it, that I actually went on my own to Belgium and met this man. Like that is really not me. And I don't know what compelled me to go. I don't even know, like, and yes, I know that my dad is listening to this. He listens to every single one. And I'll tell the story now because, you know, he mentions it every single time it comes up in conversation. I didn't tell my dad that I was going to Belgium. I did tell him that I was going to Belgium, but I didn't tell him the reasons why. I didn't tell him that I was going to meet a man. And there's reasons for that of my own, but I didn't tell him. And yeah, so I did tell my sister though. I told my sister that I was going. I told her where I was going, why I was going and stuff. So someone knew where I was. But anyway, it's so not like me to do this. I wouldn't even go on a holiday by myself. So to go to another country and meet a man, I was loved up, let's just say that, because I genuinely wouldn't have gone. If I didn't know that this guy was kind of like it, I would not have gone. I absolutely would not have gone. If I had any single lingering doubt or anything, I absolutely would not have gone. Anyway, I only went for 5 days, I think. But like, he took me around the city and he showed me some sights, and I spilt hot chocolate all down me at one point, which was very embarrassing. And there's this thing, I don't know if anyone else has heard of this, but it's like, you as a person, you remember almost every single embarrassing thing you've done because it just sticks with you, but no one else remembers. I wanted to crawl inside myself for the amount of embarrassing things I did during these 5 days in front of this man. And I'm amazed that he actually stuck by me because I made a complete fool out of myself. But I went for 5 days, and it was really nice to see him, and we bonded very quickly over those 5 days. Now, we were still very awkward with each other, and if anyone says like, oh, like when we met it was like I knew him forever, okay, that may be the case, but you're still very awkward as a person because speaking online, you get to know them, but you don't get to know who they actually are as a person. It's the same as like when you're dating and then when you move in together. You don't know the person until you've like lived with them. And this is the same. You don't know the person until you've actually physically been with them, which is kind of a duh, like obviously. But I can't really describe it. Like, you genuinely just don't know the person until you're actually with them. And I like learned a lot about him. He learned a lot about me. And then from there on, we just kind of arranged as many meetups as we could. We were very lucky that flights for us were very cheap. Even the Eurostar was very cheap because, you know, it's a flight. The flight from Brussels to where I used to live, Birmingham, is like 45 minutes. The Eurostar is 2 hours. And it really, like this is what I said earlier, like we didn't have to arrange 10-hour flights or anything like that. So I think we were very lucky. But it was a hell of a lot of planning, and we did get to meet almost every month. which, yeah, luck is on our side, I guess. But we still felt how hard it was, okay? So we did date for just under 2 years, long distance, because in September 2023, so last year, is when I moved to Belgium, and here I am now. And again, that transition from dating to then living together is very, very different as well, but that's the same for everyone, so yeah. But anyway, that's our quick brief story of meeting and then long distance. But long distance is not easy, and it's very glamorized, I've noticed, to be like, oh my god, 2 people that live so far apart but they love each other. Yeah, that is amazing, but be realistic here for 1 second. It's not fucking easy in any way, shape or form. So I just wanted to speak about, off the top of my head, the common challenges. There's always those slight little nuanced things that are different for everyone, or, you know, you feel it in different ways. But these are the very common things that I felt a lot throughout the long distance. And same for him. He's in the same boat. So, the first and foremost, trust. Trust is the first hurdle couples face, I think, when separated by distance. But also in general, just in general life, you know, trust is the foundation for any relationship. It's crucial. And this is like the first hurdle of many for long distance, but also, like I say, in general. But in long distance, it takes it to a whole new level of importance, in my opinion. When you're not physically together, you really have to rely on what they tell you. You can't check really in any way. And it can be really difficult because I think, honestly, no filter, I think everyone is insecure. Not in an extreme sense, but everyone has a little bit of insecurity inside of them, whether they admit to it or not. And I do believe I'm insecure, I know I am, but I do believe in long distance, it kind of brings it to the forefront. And boy, do you feel it. But also, if you've had trust issues in the past, from past experiences, this elevates it. So if you're speaking to someone, or if you're new to a long distance relationship, please do keep that in mind, that you have to trust what they tell you, and there's no way for you to really fact check. And you might, when you're not together, if you're at work, at school, lying in bed, doing whatever, you really do find yourself wondering, like, what are they doing? Like, when I'm not there, what are they up to? Who are they spending time with? These thoughts can lead to anxiety. And I know that it can lead to anxiety. I already was anxious. Now I'm 2 times more anxious. And I mean, sometimes even paranoia, but I wouldn't say I was that extreme. I wasn't like fully paranoid about what's going on. I think that when that happens, that's when you need to tone it down a bit. Or maybe the relationship's not for you. I don't think it should ever go into paranoia. If you have the trust, obviously, like I say, you do think a lot about it, but I don't think it should ever lead to paranoia. So if it is, just think about, is this right for you? Are you in the right headspace to be entering or be in this kind of relationship? But anyway, it's very easy to fall into a pattern of constantly seeking reassurance from your partner, which can strain the relationship if you're constantly asking where they are, or if you're like, are you okay, what are you up to? And I mean, that is kind of general chit chat, like, oh, what are you doing, where are you going and stuff. But if it's excessive, if it's every 10 minutes, where are you, what are you doing, don't do that. don't do it to yourself, don't do it to them. It will just kind of fuck everything up, to put it nicely. Yeah, you might start checking social media a lot, their social media, if they're very popular on social media, if they're on it a lot. I guess that can give you reassurance because you can kind of know where they are and what they're doing. But shoe on the other foot here, it can lead you to over-analysing everything, their texts, their pictures. Like if they say, oh, I'm going here, but then, I don't know, so they're posted in a picture and they're elsewhere, you're like, oh, what are they doing? Why are they there? They said they were here. You know, it's a very fine line, I tell you. But you can also feel uneasy when they don't respond right away, if they're busy, you know. Again, with insecurity, if you need that reassurance all the time and you're not getting it, again, you need to think about... The way that I think about it is like, you're a person with a life, they're a person with a life. If you lived close together, yeah, you can just pop over to check if they're all right, or you can arrange seeing each other very frequently, so it's different. But when you're with this distance, you need to know that you cannot just go and check on them. You cannot do these things. So just trust what they say. And if you don't trust them, there's a reason why. So think of the reason why. If it's a bad reason, you shouldn't be in this relationship. Either they need to work on themselves or you need to work on yourself, but you shouldn't be in the relationship. But the constant worry, anyway, can create a cycle of doubt and mistrust, even if there's no real reason for it. If, like I say, if you're constantly thinking about things or asking them questions, and it's a cycle, you know, you're not going to get out of it. The thing is, like, you can fully trust your partner, but when the separation is there, you can't help but feel anxious. And chances are it's your own insecurities talking, but it's very hard to quiet the voices when you're miles and miles away, potentially. Loneliness is also a significant challenge in long-distance relationships. No matter how much you love this person or how often you communicate, if it's every second, there will absolutely be moments when the distance feels unbearable. And yet, I salute to this. You might feel isolated, especially when you're surrounded by friends and family and whoever, who are in relationships where they can just see each other whenever they want, you know, like, you want to go on a date tonight? Yeah, let's go. You want to go get coffee? Yeah, I'll be there in 10 minutes. You can't do that. And loneliness, my God, me and her were hand in hand for 2 years. The loneliness isn't just about missing the big things like birthdays, or if you can't meet up for anniversaries or things. I think for me, it really was about the small things. Everyday moments that you can't share because obviously you're not together every day. I can miss holding hands with the person. Spontaneous hugs, you know, like if you're feeling a bit down one day, oh, I just want a hug, but then they're not there to give you that hug. Just having that person there by your side, in the kitchen, when you're in the living room, anywhere, just knowing that they're there. I miss that. I miss that so much. Just the mundane parts of life, I guess you can say. I missed him so fucking much. And also, this is something that I don't really think people have shared, or like, at least I haven't heard this, but when you're not together, the absence, it really can make you feel disconnected from that person, even if it's for a month or a few months, whatever. You really kind of start to feel like you don't know them. Like, so much has happened, so much can happen in a month, even in a week. And when you meet up and, oh, I've got so much to tell you, or like, oh, so much has happened, and you're like, oh, like, you don't feel a part of it, and you just feel so disconnected, like, not just from them, but from the relationship, because it's, you know, like, yeah, you may speak a lot online and stuff, but little things that happen on the daily could completely just miss their mind for them to tell you. But then when you meet, like, oh my God, so much has happened. And you're like, well, what? I didn't know. Like, when did this happen? But definitely for me, it was just the little things that I missed the most. Just little laughs, little jokes that we'd share. How I'd just get like a hug because they wanted to hug, like he wanted to hug me. Those little moments really make you feel the love that you can't get. You can't replicate that over a video call or a voice call or text or anything. You can't hug me over a phone, and I really, really did miss that. Yeah, another one, meeting up, planning to meet up, which is honestly like the major big thing. It, for me and for him, it was one of the most stressful aspects of our relationship, which I think for these relationships is kind of a given because, you know, meeting up is when you see each other, so obviously it's the main aspect. But having to coordinate our schedules, finding time off work, having to book the flight, having to book a hotel sometimes when it was needed, having to arrange trains and stuff because sometimes we took the Eurostar or sometimes we had to travel from the airport to obviously where we were going and stuff. And my God, it feels like a nightmare sometimes. When you're planning it, it's stressful. I cannot, it's not magical and stuff. And oh my God, the day before I was going, or like the week before I was going, I was so excited because I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to see him again. I haven't seen him for like a month or two, and I'm so excited to see him again. But planning it, my God, I wanted to rip my hair out. I'm amazed I didn't go bald with the amount of stress that I was going through. Honestly, cannot explain it enough. But also, when you're there, it is a very magical moment when you first see them for like again, because you're like, oh my God, I missed you so much, and you're hugging, and oh, I'm so happy. But the pressure of making sure that this trip is perfect, because you maybe won't see each other for a while after this trip, and you've spent a lot of money on the trip, potentially. You've spent a lot of time planning it and stuff, and sometimes you put a lot of pressure on yourself or the other person to do so much in this moment. Like, we need to go here, we need to do this, we need to go on dates and stuff. And I do think for me it was hard to kind of just sit with it. It's so weird. Like, I wanted to go on dates and I wanted to do loads of stuff because like we hadn't gone on dates and stuff for weeks, and I was like, I want to go on a date and I want to do this and I want to go here and we can go to this museum and stuff. And he was like, I have been at work so much. I had also been at work so much, but he was like, I just want to chill with you and watch some movies and stuff. But it's a very different feeling. Like, if you are with the person, if they're just down the road from you, you can just have movie nights and stuff and it's very chill. But when you don't see each other often, you really do put a pressure to like make so much out of this trip. And sometimes, I mean, this has happened a lot as well, when the plans fall through, like when you can't meet up, or you've been planning something but then something crops up and you can't go anymore, or he can't come, or whatever. It's incredibly disappointing. You, honestly, worst moments of my life, and you really do just feel helpless because it's like, well, you can't do anything now. Like, you just have to wait until the next time when you can potentially meet up and hope that it plans out well. But me and him, I mean, my job was very flexible. I worked at Starbucks at the time, so I could kind of book off whenever, given that someone else wasn't off at the same time. But his job is, he can't just be like, oh, I want to have this week off in a few weeks. He has to put his holiday in months in advance, so it's not like we could just quickly, let's go here for the week. We could kind of meet up on weekends and stuff when he had the weekend off and I'd book the weekend off, but it was difficult. Just planning meetups, one of the most stressful moments of these relationships. It almost feels like the world is like conspiring against you. Like, oh, they want to meet up on the 22nd. Well, actually, now they can't because the flight's been cancelled or the flight's been rescheduled, or oh, you have to work this day now, so you can't go. I'm so glad that part of it's over. Like, I'm so glad we're together now, and I'm so glad that part of it is over. Also, finances. The financial strain of a long distance relationship is another tough reality. Travelling isn't cheap. Luckily for us, majority of it was. Obviously in peak times, so over the Christmas period and when the children aren't at school and stuff anymore, prices fucking hiked up, let me tell you. But just on the day to day, it wasn't actually, it was obviously expensive. It's not cheap, but it wasn't that bad. But travel isn't cheap as a whole, and costs can add up very quickly. You've got the flight, the hotel, even the little things. And this was probably where most of our money went, honestly. Like, yes, the flights were expensive. Yes, the hotels were expensive. But I think this is where most of our money went, because when I go to meet him, this is initially, I'd go to meet him, and he lived with his parents at the time. I lived with my dad. So if he came to visit me, if I went to visit him, we didn't cook. Not that we couldn't, but we didn't. We just didn't cook. So we'd eat out a lot. And my God, money. It's not cheap to eat out. And I mean, eventually he did get his own place, so it was different, but it's still expensive. When he came to visit me, we'd just eat out because we'd be at a hotel and we'd just order Uber Eats and stuff. And my God, my money, my bank was just gone. I had money, now I don't. Fucking gone. Never see it again. But obviously, it takes a toll on your budget. And this does lead to a lot of stress, you know. The world that we live in, especially at the moment, and in the UK, cause he lives. I hate that cost of living crisis, but it really takes a toll on you, and it leads to a lot of stress, especially if one partner earns a lot more than the other. Obviously, it's easier for them to come over than the other person, and it can lead to feeling guilty or even resentment, because, you know, you may feel guilty, I can't come and see you, I can't afford to, but you resent them because you're like, well, you could come. I think, communicate, please. Just communicate. I'll get into it later, but just communicate. For some couples, the financial side of it can lead to some quite tough decisions. You know, do you visit each other less often to save money, or do you stretch your budget and make it work so you can see each other more frequently? Neither option is great, or neither option feels great, and it can be hard to have a balance. I think for me and my partner, what we did was that we kind of took turns. Obviously, I mean, there were some times where I'd go over 3 times and then he'd come over 3 times, but we did kind of balance it out, so neither of us was spending more than the other. So that was how we kind of made it work. Another thing, and this does kind of go into just feeling lonely and stuff and missing them, but missing out on the small everyday moments. I've kind of already gone through this, like, I miss those small moments. But, and I'm going to emphasise it again, these are the moments that really hit home. Like, if you're cooking together, watching a movie, even just on the sofa, just doing nothing. It builds intimacy, and when you're in a long distance relationship, these opportunities are very few and far between. It's only when you're seeing each other, which could be every few months or whatever, you're not getting that. So this is what I said about me. Like, instead you want to cram as much quality time as possible into the short periods when you're together, which can feel overwhelming and exhausting because you're trying to do so much and you put so much pressure on the moment, and it's like you need to just calm down. But you feel the pressure to make every moment count because you know it's not going to last. You know that you're going to have to fly back home or you're going to have to leave at some point. And it can be hard to relax sometimes, especially on those last few days, on that last 2 or 3 days. And, you know, the clock's looming and you know you're going to be going home soon, and you can't help but just feel so sad because you have to say goodbye. And I know, and we laugh about it now, but in the moment it was very traumatic, okay? But the last few days I'd literally cry on and off because I'm like, I don't want to leave you, I don't want to, especially when I was packing my bag to go back to the airport. I would sob and sob and sob, hysterical crying. I'm not even joking, I'm not sugarcoating it. Hysterical crying. I hiccuping, like I was beyond myself because I didn't want to say goodbye. I just wanted to wake up every single day and have him there and me be there and none of us have to leave, and it's happy, 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 but it's not happy, happy when you have to say goodbye. And yeah, the emotional roller coaster of being in a long distance relationship can also take a toll. Like, you have the highest of highs when you're reunited and you get to see each other again, you get to spend all this time together. But these highs are matched by the lows of having to say goodbye. And I cried every single time we said goodbye. I cried. And the constant cycle of anticipation and then separating can be so draining, and it can leave you feeling emotionally exhausted. Why did I say it like that? Emotional damage? Like emotionally exhausted. And I don't think I've experienced it, so I don't think it's uncommon to experience a kind of post-visit depression. After returning back home, you know, you could have a really nice life, but you get home and you're like, everything's grey and nothing feels happy because that person's not there with you to make it happy. I don't know, like, right, when you're back home that first day or night or whenever, the distance feels even more unbearable because it's like I was with you a few hours ago and now I'm at home by myself, upset because you're not here. It's not nice, okay? So with all of these different these were the main ones for me. There are loads of other little tiny ones, but with these main challenges, how on earth do you make a long distance relationship work? And the truth is, my friends, and I'm sorry to say it, it's not easy, but it's definitely possible with the right mindset and some strategies. So, communication. And I've probably cut out my mic with how loud I said that. Communication is key. Absolutely. In a long distance relationship, you have to be intentional. You have to be intentional about staying connected. And this means more than just checking in with each other daily. It means having meaningful conversations where you really, really do listen to each other regularly, daily if you have to. But talk about fears, hopes, dreams, what's going on in your life, even if it's something as silly as, oh, I'm making a cup of tea, or, oh, I made a cup of tea but it actually tasted awful, I'm remaking it. Little things like that, because they're the little moments that you cannot share together when you're not together. So sharing those little moments makes you feel very connected. And be honest about what you're feeling, even if it's tough to admit that you're struggling with the distance. I know many, many times I've said to him, he said to me, I miss you so much, I'm really struggling, I just want you here for a cuddle, I just want you here to be, like, for this moment that's happening or whatever. I just need you here, I'm having a needy moment is what I called them, and every day was a needy moment. But you really do have to be your rawest self. That makes no sense, but you just have to have no filter. Don't think you're speaking to a distant relative, like, oh, look, we're doing really well, thank you, even if you're not doing well. Be honest. Don't sugarcoat anything, because not even for them, because obviously they won't know how you're actually feeling if you're not telling them, but for you to have to bottle it all up, it's not healthy. Just tell them how you're feeling, what's going on, good or bad, let them in on it. Also, and this is a big one, set expectations early on from the get-go, from day dot. Set expectations. Discuss how often you want to communicate. If you live busy lives, set a few hours aside, set a few moments aside in the day to speak to that person. When you're going to visit each other, what do you expect? Do you expect to visit each other every week, Jesus Christ, every few months, every month, every 2 months, every 3 months? What's realistic for you with your finances and things? Have the chat, because it needs to be had. Yeah. Also, what are your long-term plans? I wouldn't treat this relationship as different to any other. Yes, okay, when it comes down to it, one of you or both of you are going to have to move to close the distance if you get to that point. But what are your long-term goals? Do you see yourself moving? Are you tied down to where you are? Career-wise, what do you want to do? Do you have to stay in your country or your city or whatever because you've got career commitments or anything like that? In the future, do you want to have kids? If you do, obviously when you've got kids, you can't be uprooting your life every few months. So where do you want to settle? It kind of does come down to where do you want to settle, which is a very tough conversation to have. And it's not always done and dusted from the first conversation you have. For me and my partner, we discussed it, and initially it was that he would move to the UK because in the career he's in, he could get a decent paying job, but I don't really have a set career yet. I still want to go to university and figure that out for myself. So I said to him, it would be easier for me to sort out my career here, whereas you already have your career kind of sorted. And then we looked into it, and it actually wasn't really gonna work out if he moved. He would have got a job, but it would have been almost half of a pay cut than what he has right now. And looking into it, I can go to university here. In English, it's not any kind of pressure to learn, like I need to learn Dutch because if I don't, I can't go to uni. It's nothing like that. But it just works out better for me to move here. So, we decided that he'd move to the UK. We told everyone. We told all of his friends and family. We told my family and stuff. And we were like, yeah, he's moving to the UK. And then a few months later, after we'd done our research, it was like, actually, I'm so sorry, I'm moving now. And it was a very hard conversation to have with family, definitely. A lot of tears and, a lot of, but I thought it was gonna be different. And yeah, it's very hard, but set the expectations. And it doesn't, like I say, it doesn't have to be that, you've set them and that's it. They can change with time or with circumstances, but it's definitely important to have the conversation early, because I think with these kinds of relationships, you do excel, you do speed up the whole dating process. You can date casually for a few months, but it gets to a point where, meeting up and stuff, it's a lot of pressure, it's a lot of time and effort and money, and you kind of want to know, well, what's the outcome of this? So I think setting expectations early on just kind of cuts everything short. If they're not really committed, if you're not really committed to it, to end it sooner rather than later. Now, to maintain trust, because you can say you trust someone, but obviously it needs to be maintained. It is crucial to be transparent with each other. Like I say, don't sugarcoat anything. Share your plans daily, weekly, whatever. Introduce each other to your friends. Integrate them into your lives. Be open also about your feelings. Don't say, I'm so happy, when you're sat at home crying. oh, nothing's wrong, but you sat there feeling miserable about life because you missed them or whatever. Be honest, say, I am missing you. When you're together, say, I'm feeling so stressed. Work through it together. You have to literally be partners in crime. You cannot be on two separate sides. I know you're on two separate sides of the world potentially, but you cannot be on two separate sides of the relationship. You have to literally be the same person almost. You have to operate as one being. That's how it works. It can also help to establish ground rules, agreeing on how often you'll communicate, what you're both comfortable with in terms of socialising with other people, like any relationship really, but I think all of these conversations really kind of have to happen early on because, like I say, it's an excelled relationship. I see it as moving 2 times faster than the average relationship. Just remember though, trust isn't just about what you say or what they say, but it's also what you do. I am a very, very big believer in actions speak louder than words. You can promise me the world. You can say you're going to do this, you're going to do that. You can tell me that you trust me, whatever. But if you don't show it and if you don't do it, I don't believe you. Like, yes, you can say it and obviously you're going to trust what the person says, but actions absolutely do speak louder than words. It's not if he wanted to, he would. It's if they wanted to, they would. If that person is committed to you and wants this to work, they will do everything within their power physically to make it work. Just follow through on promises. Be reliable as a person, as a partner. Show up for your partner, even from a distance. You don't have to, if something's happening, like unfortunately, if you can't attend a birthday, you can't be there physically. That does not mean you can't call them, video call them. You can send flowers, you can send a card. Anything is possible. You can send a present. Anything's possible. So don't be lazy, ladies and gentlemen. Don't be lazy. When you're dealing with the loneliness, it's very important to find ways to be connected beyond just texting and calling. You can do virtual dates. Me and my partner did this like virtual museum thing. And I bet he doesn't remember doing it. But we did this virtual museum tour thing, and it was like an interactive one. And you could draw your own pictures. It'd give you prompts like draw a duck, and you had to draw a duck, or it'd say what's your biggest memory with this person, and you had to draw it out. And I mean, when I put pencil to paper, I'm not the worst drawer, but when I'm having to use a cursor that's really not the best, it just makes things funny because I'm like, what the hell have you just drawn? And he tells me and I'm like, that's absolutely not what that is, but good for you, I guess. You can do virtual escape rooms, like we really love escape rooms. You can also watch movies together, just play it at the same time. Honestly, the internet is an amazing, wonderful thing. You can do so much even when you're not together. Even physical things that you can do. You can cook the same meal. You can play a game together online. It doesn't have to be an escape room if that's not your thing. But these shared experiences can make you feel so much closer, even though you're so far apart. And also, don't forget, keep the love alive. Don't forget to send like little gifts to each other, little surprises, like a letter, a little handwritten letter or a small gift, or even like, oh, this song makes me think of you, and send them the song. And chivalry is not dead. You can do so many different things even when you're apart. And for planning meetups, it's very important to be flexible and be understanding. Life can be very unpredictable and sometimes plans may need to change. Having a backup plan can help ease that kind of disappointment that you might feel if something falls through. You can be like, okay, plan B it is, or plan C, plan D, whatever. It's also very important though to focus on the quality of your time together. Like I say, I was in the mindset of we have to do so much together because we only have like 5 days or whatever, but rather than trying to cram so much into a short visit, just remember that it's okay to just relax and enjoy each other's company, and it's kind of it comes with time thing. Like the meetups that you have, you kind of just ease into it. But initially I was very much like, oh my god, we've got to do so much together. And with finances, it's crucial to be open with your situation, discuss budgets, find a balance that works for you both. If you can't fly from one end of the city, from one end of the country, or from one end of the world to the other, how about meeting in the middle? Is there somewhere that you can meet between you, a country, a city, whatever, where you can both not have to spend as much money and meet in the middle? Maybe, like I said, this is what me and my partner did, take turns visiting each other, or you can set up a savings plan specifically, like a travelling fund. The key is to just be realistic and avoid putting unnecessary strain on finances and stuff on the relationship, because it doesn't end well. It's not going to end well. So, to summarise, long distance is not easy. It's very challenging, but they are incredibly rewarding, in my opinion. When you're so committed to making it work, the distance can, in essence, bring you closer. It does teach you a lot of patience. It teaches you a hell of a lot of trust to put in someone else. And the importance of meaningful communication. You're not communicating just to communicate. You're communicating because you really want to speak to this person and you want to know what's going on and you miss them so much. But do remember, the miles don't define the relationship. The love that you have, the effort that you share, the commitment to each other, that's what matters. And if you are in the position where you're going to close the distance, or you're looking into it, this specific point in the relationship is going to make you want to rip out your hair and set yourself on fire. I cannot believe the amount of strain it put on me as a person. I don't even know what it put on him or on us, honestly. It's nothing short of a shit show. It's so stressful to have to, right, if you're moving or if they're moving or whatever, the amount of documents you need to get, the amount of money and time you have to put in, the planning, having to plan moving and everything. If you've got all this stuff that you want to move with you, you've got to pay for it to be moved. And like for me, I brought my cat with me and I had to pay so much money for him to be vaccinated, for him to have all these different checks, for him to be have documentation and things. It's so stressful, but I cannot stress this enough. I cherish us living together so much. Every single morning when I wake up and he's there next to me, every single night when I go to bed and he's there next to me, when we go out on dates, when we share everyday moments together now that we couldn't before, I cherish every single moment. And I'm nearly a year in of us living together, I still feel like it's so surreal. I still feel like I'm going to go back home tomorrow or something. I'm going to pack up and have to fly back to the UK. And popular opinion, I don't know. But I fully believe if you've seen through a long distance relationship to the end, if you've then moved in together, you have a bond that's so special and so tight knit that I don't think just casually dating gives you. You've had to put so much trust, you've had to plan so much, you've been through so much emotionally, physically, the strain it's put on you and the other person and your relationship and everything. If you've seen that through, if you're lucky enough to have seen that through, if you've survived the literal hell, it's so special. I honestly, I'm smiling because it's so special, and it's such a special thing to have with someone. Just when I sound so no one else is like us for a moment, but absolutely with a long distance relationship, and I will compare it to an everyday average relationship, there's such a special bond that an average relationship doesn't have, in my opinion. I think you just know each other on a different level. And it's just a very special thing. I'm going to stop because I'm getting all fucking lovey-dovey now. But thank you for listening if you have made it this far. Very, very long one, but I think it's insightful if you don't know, or insightful if you do know and want more info or whatever. I just think it's helpful to speak about and give my experiences. So yeah, I'm gonna go. I'll leave you all to the rest of your morning, evening, night, day, whatever. I will see you next Friday. Bye.